morning and greetings from the closet. My name is Allie. Thank you so much for being here. I have been wanting to film this video ever since I thought about starting a YouTube channel, and now that my baby is down for his nap, I've got the baby monitor right there if I look over. I am going to just get right into it and share my positive natural birth story. When I was pregnant almost 10 months ago with my first baby, I was scouring YouTube, scouring Instagram, just looking for positive natural birth stories. So I'm really excited to get to share mine and hopefully inspire some people to have a natural birth if you're on the fence about it. I found out that I was pregnant August 2023, and Lev was born on May 7th, 2024. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was just looking all around the internet, trying to figure out if I wanted to do a hospital birth unmedicated or if I wanted to use a birth center, do a home birth. I always knew that I was interested in an unmedicated route, but I just didn't know which avenue was best for me. So we interviewed a couple doulas that did home births, and then we toured a birth center. I live in North Carolina. I don't really want to share the name of the birth center, but if you're in NC and you're curious, reach out to me and I'll send you all their information. But yeah, I toured the birth center and I fell in love with all the midwives, all the nurses, the staff. They were just amazing. And I thought for my first birth, a birth center would be a great option for me. So we had all of our appointments at the birth center and everything went great, aside from just the class that they have you take, which is just like a standard birthing class, which is online. We decided to do a hypnobirthing in-person 6-week course. It was amazing. I really recommend hypnobirthing. I would say I got the most out of it on the prep side. I didn't really use a lot of the tactics during labor because I was just a little overwhelmed. We'll get into that. But from a meditation standpoint, from an information standpoint, hypnobirthing was a fantastic option for my husband and I. One of the things that I love about the in-person classes is that you get to watch so many natural births, birth centers, home births, hospital births. You just kind of get to see many women in that experience and how different it can look for everyone in its own beautiful way. So it was really positive and just a great opportunity for learning. I also know that hypnobirthing is worldwide and there's classes in person and online in every state. So if it's something you're interested in, I'll leave the website below and definitely check it out if you're looking for some meditations, information, just really cool tips and tricks for breathing, pelvic floor support, things like that. So I thankfully had no complications. I had a pretty mild pregnancy, a little bit of nausea at the beginning, but wasn't much. But that final week before labor was really bad for me. I had what's literally called lightning crotch. If you don't know anything about it and you're pregnant, it might be worth a Google just in case it happens to you. You're not freaking out like I was. It's basically when your baby is pressing on certain parts of your anatomy and it just sends these surges of pain through your bladder. I would say the lightning crotch pain was worse for me than labor itself. It was pretty violent for a week before actual labor. Lev was a full 2 weeks late from his due date, which was at the end of April. So we definitely had to start getting our options together. If you're familiar with birth center births, you cannot go past 2 weeks after your due date. It becomes a high-risk pregnancy. So we were kind of going through all of our options before I knew I would have to get transferred to a hospital for my birth. So Lev was born on May 7th. So May 6th, I started to have very mild symptoms. I lost my mucus plug. I had a little bit of bloody show, not much, but I started to feel those surges of the lightning crotch pain becoming more and more intense, and I started to think, okay, maybe these are contractions. So we drove, the birth center is about 25 minutes from our house for reference. So we drove to the birth center. This is around 11 p.m. May 6th, 2024. And I got a cervix exam. The midwife on call took a look. She said I was not close to anywhere where the baby was coming. I think I was 1 centimeter dilated, but the pain I was in was so severe that we kind of feared I would not be able to sleep, and sleep is extremely important to get your body ready for labor. So I agreed to get a shot of Phenergan. It went in the muscle, and it was a really good decision because even though the pain, the lightning crotch pain, obviously there's no way to stop that. It's nerve pain. Every time Lev put his little fist, his little feet, there was like nothing that was gonna stop that train from going. But it did calm me enough to where I was able to get a little bit of sleep here and there. So the morning of May 7th, the contractions just were not picking up, and we knew that was the last day. If he, was not born on the 7th, I was transferred to the hospital. Everything we had kind of worked towards was over, and I would have to go through, an unmedicated labor at a hospital, which is totally fine. It's just, if you've been through this, to change your birth plan at the last minute is just pretty traumatizing. So I was honestly really afraid that was going to be the case. So my contractions were really far apart. Things just were not progressing. So my doula came over. We kind of talked things through. She's very close with the midwives at the birth center. So she called them, talked through my options. And one of the options that was the least invasive was to drink the midwives brew. A little controversial. If you know, I won't get into it too much, but it is a concoction. The base is castor oil, and the old wives' tale is that it will start to accelerate your labor and can, push you into labor if you're kind of on the brink. So I drank that at around 9 in the morning. I was still having those horrible lightning crotch pains, which come in waves like contractions, but it's just not that feeling you think you're gonna get, like that period cramp menstrual feeling. So around 1 p.m. I was just so uncomfortable. I thought, okay, let me just get in the shower, get in the bathtub, just let some water kind of come over me. So that was 1 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, I looked over at my husband, who was in the bathroom with me. My mom was there. I was like, okay, something's happening, and it's happening fast. And I just remember the pain that I was feeling from that lightning crotch was the farthest thing from my mind, because those contractions were coming on so fast and so furious, and what seemed to be like out of nowhere. So I started to, prepare myself, get my breathing together, but I knew in my gut, I was like, we gotta go. Like, now's the time, we've gotta go. Everyone was a little caught off guard because it did happen so fast. My husband called our doula, put the phone on speaker, because she told him before, hey, when you think she's in labor, put the phone on speaker, let me hear how she sounds, because I can tell based on the noises that she's making, time the contractions, let's see where we are. And within like 30 seconds, she told my husband, Jacob, she was like, Jacob, get in the car. Like, it's time to go. So I quickly got out of the bathtub. So we showed up, my pajamas were just like not even buttoned. I started to have really intense contraction pains the last like 10 minutes of the car ride. And I thought, based on the way I was feeling, that, he was coming in the car, which when I got there, she was like, no, you're not that close, but it just felt like that. For me, the pain was dull. It was dull, and it was not sharp shooting ring of fire pain that they talk about. It was very dull. It was intense, but it wasn't awful. It's really difficult to explain, but it was not horrible blood searing pain. It really was not for me. And I know a lot of women that have used hypnobirthing. I know a lot of women that have had unmedicated labors that say the same thing. I don't know if it's the Pitocin, I don't know if it's some of the other medications that they give you at the hospital, I'm not sure. But for me, it was just a dull kind of guttural pain. It wasn't like a sharp piercing pain, if that makes any sense. And hopefully that's not TMI, but that's kind of what you're here for. 6 centimeters, I think. We got into the birthing pool, and I just was not having it. I thought I would like a water birth, so I was really excited about every suite at the birth center has a pool in it, but it just was not for me. So we tried a couple different labor positions, and I'll spare like the gory details, but from the moment we got there, around 4 or 5 to when Lev was born, was only about 2.5, 3 hours. So that's how fast the labor was once it really got started, the active labor. I will say being in a shower with hot water sprayer on my lower back was amazing. Lev was born in quadruped, so I was on all fours, and that felt so natural and very like primal. And yeah, I mean, it was just it really is the best day of your life if you're an expecting mom with your first and you're scared. Trust me, there were days that I was just paralyzed with fear and I was like, what am I doing? There's no way. But you do get through it, and the second that baby is out, it's just all the oxytocin, all those feel-good hormones just engulf your whole body, and you're just like numb with happiness and love and serotonin, and it really is just like nothing I've ever experienced before, and I can't wait to experience it again. So I'm trying to think of like some other things that might help. We were definitely keen about music. Sound was a big thing for me. There was like very light classical music going in the room when we got there. I didn't have like a push playlist because I didn't really have time to kind of sort all of that out. But yeah, it was just classical music. The lights were off. We didn't use them, but we did bring red light bulbs. I can link some for you guys that are just like universal light bulbs you can bring places. If not, maybe even bringing your own lamp with a red light bulb just to keep your energy calm. The fluorescent lights, things like that, can be very overstimulating and kind of take your focus away from the actual labor. Scent was very important. There were lots of different aromatherapies at the birth center. I would say between hypnobreathing techniques, aromatherapy, music, lighting, those are like the big ones that are just so helpful. And then making sure you have a really amazing birth team assembled. My midwife was absolutely fantastic. There was one nurse, and then there was also my doula and my husband, and the nurse left intermittently. You can be strict about your birth team. You can be strict about who you want in the room. If tons of people coming in and out, it's not doing it for you. Have the autonomy and the power to speak up is so important. Making sure that your partner is aware of, you know, the do's and don'ts, and having a birth checklist. I can also link a template that I found on Google where you can write down exactly what you want. So when you get there, you can hand it to everyone. And, you know, if you don't really want to be talked to during active labor, if you want there to be more rules in the room, like, you have the power and you can say whatever you want, even if it's in a hospital. Lev was a little bit stuck. We did have to, you know, do a little bit more forcible pushing than what they really recommend with a natural birth. And when I say recommend with a natural birth, I'm mainly just talking about hypnobirthing and some of the techniques that we used. Because I did not have an epidural, I could really feel all the sensations. So I knew kind of when my body wanted to push and when I felt I needed to back off a little bit. But because I was unmedicated, I did not tear. Not that those two things necessarily always correlate, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I could feel how much pressure I was bearing down and kind of instinctively knew when to back off. Also, in regards to tearing, hot compresses, olive oil, there's lots of different techniques that are great to research about alternatives if you're close to tearing or you have a thin perineum or something like that. There's a lot of different available resources and alternatives to just really bearing down all of your pressure, which a lot of times when you watch movies and they say push, 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 that's not necessarily the best thing to do all the time, in my opinion, from a lot of the research that I've done. So when Lev was crowning, he did kind of get stuck for a little bit. We were constantly monitoring his heart rate, but my contractions really stopped. But because the birth team I had has seen this is not their first rodeo, and it was not in a, you know, hospital setting per se, they were willing to just kind of let my body do its natural thing. I did a lot of movement, I did a lot of hip circles, I did a lot on my hands and knees just to kind of get gravity to help me out and start to push him out. But as soon as, you know, he passed his head a little bit more through the perineum, he shot out. And I think that it's called the fetal injection response is really strong in a lot of cases, and it was just really cool that that happened. And then my placenta came out a couple minutes later. I didn't have any after contractions, thank God. I know that's something that a lot of women struggle with. There was not any excessive bleeding. A lot of times they will offer a shot of Pitocin. to help stop the bleeding. I did not need that, but it is an option. It's available at a lot of birth centers just in case. But yeah, it was just fantastic. I mean, if you're scared and you're sitting here and you're watching this and you're like, there's no way I can do it, you 100% can do it. You're born to do this. Your body is just 100%, oh my God, I have chill bumps. Oh, you're 100% capable of doing this, and it is your body, it is your decision. Every single step of the way, you are in control. So I hope you feel empowered, and I will link absolute every resource I can think in the description. I'm sure you've found her by now, but I believe her name is Bridget Taylor. She's amazing, and I used a lot of her online resources as well. She's like the guru of this, so I will link her for you as well. And thank you so much for watching. Any questions, if you want to talk, find me over on Instagram, message me. I love natural birth, everything holistic as it pertains to baby, and I would love to talk to you.